A message from our sponsor Survey Oasis Paid Surveys. Participate at your leisure. Visit surveyoasis.com for more information. In the year 532 AD, the Byzantine Empire, a vast and powerful state that had endured for centuries, teetered on the brink of collapse. The capital, Constantinople, was a city of grandeur and beauty, but it was also a hotbed of tensions and rivalries that would soon boil over into chaos. It was a time of great upheaval, and the events that were about to unfold would have far-reaching consequences for the empire. At the heart of the turmoil was a long-standing feud between two rival factions of chariot racing fans, the Blues and the Greens. These factions were more than just sporting enthusiasts. They represented powerful interest groups that wielded significant influence in the city. The Blues were generally associated with the aristocracy and the imperial court, while the Greens were seen as representatives of the common people. Tensions between the two factions had been simmering for years, but they came to a head on January 13, 532, when a group of Blues and Greens were arrested and sentenced to death for murder. The condemned men were to be hanged, but a group of monks intervened, and the men were instead imprisoned. However, the monks' actions only served to inflame the situation, and soon the city was plunged into chaos. The riots, which would become known as the Nika riots, began on January 13 and lasted for 5 days. They were marked by widespread violence, looting, and destruction, as the rival factions clashed in the streets. The rioters, who were largely made up of Greens, targeted the imperial palace and the homes of wealthy aristocrats, burning and pillaging as they went. The situation quickly spiraled out of control, and Emperor Justinian I, who had only recently come to power, found himself facing a grave crisis. He was forced to flee the palace, and the city was left to burn. The rioters, who were now in control of the streets, began to chant Nika, or victory, as they rampaged through the city. As the violence escalated, the Greens began to turn their attention to the imperial throne. They proclaimed a new emperor, Hypatius, who was a nephew of the former emperor Anastasius I. Hypatius was a popular figure among the Greens, and they saw him as a potential leader who could challenge Justinian's authority. However, Justinian was not one to give up easily. He rallied his loyal troops and launched a counterattack against the rioters. The fighting was fierce, and the city was soon filled with the sounds of clashing steel and the screams of the dying. In the end, it was Justinian's forces that emerged victorious, but not before thousands of people had lost their lives. The Nika riots were a devastating blow to the city of Constantinople, and they left deep scars that would take years to heal. The city was left in ruins, and many of its inhabitants were forced to flee. The riots also marked a turning point in the history of the Byzantine Empire, as Justinian began to consolidate his power and impose his authority on the city. In the aftermath of the riots, Justinian launched a series of reforms aimed at rebuilding the city and restoring order. He also took steps to limit the power of the rival factions, banning their meetings and suppressing their activities. The emperor's actions were successful, and the city slowly began to recover from the devastation of the riots. However, the Nika riots had a lasting impact on the Byzantine Empire. They marked the beginning of a period of increased autocracy, as Justinian and his successors sought to impose their authority on the city and its inhabitants. The riots also highlighted the deep-seated tensions and rivalries that existed within the empire, and they served as a reminder of the ever-present threat of violence and instability. Despite their significance, the Nika riots are a relatively little-known episode in the history of the Byzantine Empire. However, they remain an important reminder of the complexities and challenges faced by this vast and powerful state. The riots serve as a testament to the enduring legacy of the Byzantine Empire, a legacy that continues to fascinate and intrigue historians and scholars to this day.